Hi, in this video, I share simple yet effective techniques to create gorgeous handmade mixed media cards that I'm sure anybody would be happy to receive. So, in the background, I've done an embossing resist technique along with um, s- using some distressed ink, some acrylic paint, some gorgeous modeling paste to give it that textural effect, along with some acrylic paint to bring it all together. The focal images are my own, and there's also some overstamping to bring it all together. The cards were quite quick, but I think the end result is really, really effective. So if this interests you, please stick around. I'm Danny from the Glittered Rose. I'm a mixed media artist, and I just love sharing techniques like this. I'm sure that you'll agree that the end result is really quite effective. I'm really happy with these cards. I think that they're really gorgeous. But they didn't take terribly long, but they were so much fun to create. I haven't made cards like these before. I thought, why don't you do your mixed media techniques but on cards? I didn't want to spend too long in an art journal. And I think sometimes, you know, making something a bit smaller, less intimidating can be fun. So if this interests you, stick around. Be sure to give me a like. It would really help me out. Share it with your arty friends and leave me a comment. All right, guys, let's get into it. My cards are going to be small, so I'm doing 5.5 by 4.25, and I've got my card panels cut, and I'm inking up a few stamps. They're called Floral Outlines by Tim Holtz. I've inked the stamps up using just a plain embossing ink, and I've stamped them twice. I find stamping them twice works really well on watercolor paper because the watercolor paper really soaks up that ink. So stamping it twice just helps the embossing powder adhere really well to the paper. So now I'm going to emboss these stamps in clear embossing powder because I'm going to do a resist technique. Um, so I'm just scrubbing out my embossing powder. And I'll pour this powder on. I love the Wow Clear embossing powder in the superfine. I find that it works really well. I bought the big jar, and I think it's going to last me the rest of my life. Even though I've used it a lot, it doesn't look like I've used any. You can't complain about that. Okay, I'm going to pop this away, and then I'll just heat this off camera. You don't need to see me doing this. Okay, so for the spray stains, I'm using weathered wood, speckled egg, and tumbled glass. I think that together they should make a nice color, and then I'm using speckled egg in oxide. I like to always have at least one oxide of the same color. I find that's a really nice mix if you have um, so one stain and one oxide of the same color. That seems to work really well. I like to go from the lightest color to the darkest color and always look at your swatches because I find the color doesn't always match on the label. So This color looks really light on the label, but I mean really dark on the label, but yeah, on the swatch it's quite light, so I pre-wet the paper. And for this technique, I just like to give it a dry off between each layer. And I'm just trying on a piece of plastic, seeing if that gives me a little bit of a different effect than using it on a harder plastic, because this is quite thin. I'm being careful not to burn my watercolor paper because I've done that a lot. I have a tendency not to work with blues, but I think these colors should work well with my focal images that I've chosen for these cards. So I like dipping in between because you're getting like the extra layers. That's what gives you the interesting look. Oops, I melted that plastic a bit. Deliberately using that melted bit to see if that gives me any interesting sort of details, grungy bits. But it doesn't really. It's a bit difficult to get that cardboard in there. This is such a great mixed media technique. I know I use it a bit, but it's a really quick way to sort of get interesting color down for your background. I love it. I know a lot of people spray directly onto the cardboard, but I really don't tend to do that. That's not the look that I like. Um, and I'm not knocking anybody who likes to spray directly. It's just not something that I particularly like the look of. Okay, so now we're going in with the oxide, and this is the only time that I tend to spray directly, and that's because the oxide is that sort of softer, more diffused look, and that fills up a lot of the gaps. So, that's when I'll spray directly. Now I've popped the same color down, and they sort of meld in together and give it a really nice sort of soft look together. Oops, wrong one. That wasn't the oxide. Always read your label. Doesn't matter, I can tap it out. It's starting to come together, and you can really see that resist technique taking shape. The darker the color goes on, the more you can see those flowers pop up from the background. Just add a little bit more of the dark color. I'm going to finish up here, and I'll be back to show you the finished background. Okay, so that's how they're looking, and I have to say I think that that's really pretty. I'm going to try trim a little bit off the top and sides so that when I mount them, there'll be a little bit of a border from the card base, and I'll be back. Made a whoopsie daisy, and I've trimmed a little bit more off one of these backgrounds than the other, but doesn't matter. We'll fix it up by mounting one on a bit of cardstock to even it up. So now I'm doing a little bit of stamping just to add a little bit of extra interest and detail. And this is the beauty of mixed media. You can just have a bit of a play and see what you think it needs. And so I'm just using a white Brilliance ink pad. This is pretty, this ink pad. It's got a little bit of a pearly kind of a look to it. So just add that to it. And it's really not necessary. I just think it adds a little bit of something to it. Okay, so I'm going to use this girl that's on my Fairy Princesses collage sheet in my coffee shop, along with the girl with the pink hair. I think that they'll make really cute cards, and they're just the right size, so I don't have to worry about resizing them. I'm going to cut her out, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I'm thinking now I'm going to pop a little bit of modeling paste on the front of these panels. So I'm just using some cheap old Kmart stuff, and I don't want a lot, just a little bit. And I'm going to try and keep this modeling paste white because there's not a lot of white space, and it's just going to freshen it up. So just a little bit in 3 areas, because I think 3 looks much better than 4. And I'm going to do the same on the other panel, and then we'll be back with our next step. Yeah, I think that looks really nice. What do you think? So, off camera, I have mounted the girl with the pink hair onto a blue piece of cardstock, and that's just evened up the other one. because I trimmed off too much off the first one. And I am running around here with some blue crayon, but I realize I have done this basically off camera, so you can't really see what I'm doing. So I do apologize, but I'm doing it quite heavy-handed because I really liked the look of it. It really blended nicely with the colors that I was using. And I'm blending it in with my my blender. So it's not sure what they're called. It's like it's a charcoal blending stump, and it blends chalk beautifully as well. So I'm also going around the images with the chalk just to get rid of the white edges, and that'll help blend it in and make it look less stuck on. So I'm going to do that. I'll chop this footage out so that you're not watching nothing, and then I'll be back. I do apologize. I'm just gluing the cards together now. When they're all glue and stuck together, I'm going to be back. Yeah, this would be boring seeing me put the card together, but I'm using a mixture of double-sided tape and glue because I think sometimes you need both. But they're coming together really nicely and quite quickly. I've popped on some decorative crystals just for a little bit of extra bling, and I think that they look really nice. I'm not sure who will be getting these cards or what they'll be for, so I wanted some fairly um, you know, generic sentiments. So I think just because works well, and I'm going to go through my stash for the other saying. I ended up using Use Your Wings, and I went around them with the blue Stabillo All and used a bit of water. And now I think I'm going to add a little bit of acrylic paint just to blend these, blend the edges a little bit, just so that they look a little bit less stuck on. Blend the edges. I printed these images on satin photo paper and using acrylic paint on photo paper can be a little bit tricky. So it's sort of really clinging onto that photo paper, but we'll make it work. I think that colour's a really nice choice, and I think it's looking pretty good. Just another layer and another point of interest. Bit more texture to add to it. It's really wanting to grab onto this picture more so for some reason. Not so easy to blend, but sometimes I need to remember that they're just cards, it doesn't matter. I have to say I do love them though, I think that they're gorgeous cards. Kind of magical. I know my kids are gonna love them. That's what I was thinking as well. They could be used for my kids' birthday, the parties that they go to. Look at the mess that I've made on the paint tube, and look at the mess I've made of that top corner. Yeah. See what we can do about that. So always things around, you know, ways around things. Let me see. It's got a crayon. Let's go over the paint just to hide it a little bit. There's, blue underneath it and blue around it. So I figure if I can just introduce a bit of blue over it, that should blend. And I think that's working well. What do you think? Do you think I've saved it? Perfect. You'd never know. Bit more in that corner. Oops, I've knocked that off. I'll glue that back on. Do you know what? I'm going to call these done and I'm going to call these a success because I love them. I think that they're just gorgeous. If I got that, I would be so happy. I think that they're really sweet. They're textural, they're interesting, they're everything I love about mixed media, all rolled up into a tight little card package. Um, and I think it's really sweet. Let me know what you think, if you think that my mixed media style in a card works. Because I've never actually done it in a card before. I'd really love to know what you think. Leave me a comment, hit the like button if you like it, subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Um, yeah, thanks so much for taking the time to watch. I really appreciate everybody who leaves comments. There's been some really fantastic support lately, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. I should mention, if you want to grab yourself a copy of this collage sheet, it's available in my Ko-fi shop. My Ko-fi shop just runs on a $5 a month subscription, so you can grab as much or as little as you want for $5. It's such a bargain. Check it out, the link is in my description box below. Thanks so much for watching. Till next time, guys. Bye for now.